Hi, and welcome back to Branching Out, where real estate meets real life. Before we introduce our very special guests today, just want to say, if you are watching, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, follow, comment, whatever you're listening to us on. Let's just do that right now. We want to hear from you. This is what we're here for. We're here to educate you and add value to your life. So drop a comment, let us know what you want to see, and we'll do it for you. So without further ado, let's introduce Nolan.
Hey, Christina.
So good to have you here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I love it. So we have a very interesting history on how we met.
Yes, we do.
Do you want to chat about that? Just get the listeners a little
Get them locked
more
in.
glued in?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. So I had what I refer to as a modeling opportunity, which in fact was not a modeling opportunity.
It was very vague, and I was trying to figure it out for so long.
That's right. And I needed to get in shape for this opportunity. And so I went to the internet and I found a personal trainer, which was Christina. And she trained me to be ready to rock and roll for this modeling gig, which turned out to be a reality TV show, which didn't work out, but I did look good. And thank you for that. So that's how we got
you ripped.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I was the best shape of my life. That's not a joke.
I love that.
It was great.
Thank you.
No shirt off moments on the show. So no one got to really appreciate it, but, had that been an opportunity.
But you appreciate it.
Yeah, I just really did. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about your background professionally and financially and mentally before I guess you got connected with us here at Branch Wealth Partners.
Yeah.
Let's take a little stroll
down the lane. Yeah. Midwest boy at heart. I grew up in the Metro Detroit area, and I worked for a global consulting firm. And when we were acquired, so I worked for a small firm for a while. Once we got acquired, the rules were you just had to be within 90 miles of a major office. Because this organization was so large, that opened up every single city across the globe. So I just said to myself, I want to pick a new city, and I picked Charlotte. And Charlotte's been great. It's been now 3.5 years now. I love living here. I travel quite a bit for work, as I was mentioning before, and it gets very daunting. But being able to be in a city, in an area with, a growing population, with young people that are here, it's warm most of the year, which is nice compared to Michigan. So that's kind of my journey to Charlotte. And from a real estate standpoint, I was always a student, I would say, of real estate. I always had friends and other folks in my network who kind of dabbled into the real estate pool, the investing pool. And so I read a bunch of books, but that just wasn't enough to really get me to drive to make action. It was like you can be as educated as you are on a topic, but until you actually make a move and execute on those goals, you're kind of in a standstill. So my journey was, how do I move from being being educated on real estate to actually being an operator in real estate? And meeting Branch allowed me to get into that execution mode, which is
awesome.
really cool.
I love that. Well, my next kind of question I was going to ask you is, what was kind of that breaking point where you were like, okay, I have learned as much as I can. I am ready to invest in myself and actually pay to have a team of people help me on this journey. Like what was that? Do you remember that day specifically?
The day I can't remember.
Or time.
Yeah, I think it was a time period.
Yeah.
It was, I was doing really well in my day-to-day job, and it had given me opportunities to be debt-free. It had given me opportunities to have, some investable assets that I could choose to do what I wanted with. And the more and more I sort of got into, okay, is it in real estate? Is it in the market? Is it in securities? And I just said, I want to be able to branch out, so to speak. And
thank you for that plug.
And then this little plug there. And it was so serendipitous because it was actually one of our workouts, 6 a.m. Monday mornings, where you had mentioned to me you were switching jobs, and you had talked about this guy you met, Greg, who he had a vision for real estate. And I'm like, this is a sign. This really, it felt to me like it was intervention. Like I didn't have to choose Charlotte. I chose Charlotte. I didn't have to choose you as a personal trainer. But I chose
we actually
you.
had several phone calls before you chose.
We did. I had to make sure.
I
had to vet. Had to make sure it was right. But when you brought that up, it just felt like it was such serendipitous timing. And I said, I'd love to learn more. And that was, I think, the point. Maybe that was the day. Let's call it 6 a.m. Monday morning when we were working out, when I said, okay, I've read 6 books. I'm still at the same place I was 6 months ago. Let's actually bring this to action. And so, you provided me that avenue or that window to be able to do it, which is great.
And honestly, I think I remember giving you books to read because you couldn't have, when you were on the show, you couldn't bring any kind of digital media with you. So I think you bought like 4 or 5 books. I was like, you need this one, this one, this one, and this one.
Yes.
And you were like, oh, I bought them all. I'm bringing them with me. 100%. I'm going to read them all.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you gave to me, or he recommended it. I had to buy it myself, but that's okay.
Sorry.
So that one, and then there was like some real estate investor. It was a blue book. I got like halfway through it, and I'm like, I just need to pay someone to teach me this because I'm done reading. But yeah, I read all of those cover to cover on most of them. Not the one I just referenced. I forget the title of it, but that's the one I didn't finish. And yeah, education is great. I learned this in business school too. So I went to business school. You learn all the things, the theory of business, and it doesn't really matter until you get into it, right?
For sure.
Like, yes, I could recite to you all these things about, Porter's 5 forces, which is a strategic sort of model. But until you're talking with a client about actually what they're looking to drive and that sort of thing, that's when it really becomes real. So I try to apply that knowledge of what I know in business to the real estate world and say, if I want to actually do something impactful, I have to make the effort and execute very specifically. So as they say, first deal makes it real. And I learned that through the program. Like, yeah, this is all great. You can sit in this class, but until you actually purchase a property and get tenants in there, that's when it really becomes real for you.
It's true. And we're definitely going to talk about that. Yeah. But so Leanne said a funny story, I think. I don't know, she was consulting you, went over to your new place, which also we'll talk about, and you made a funny little joke, or actually it wasn't a joke, it was true. It was your nightstand, and you were like, well, I have my Bible, and I have my real estate Bible.
Yes.
And your real estate Bible is
Rentertainment.
Greg's book,
Rentertainment.
So I love that. That is so awesome.
It is good.
So speaking of Bible and faith, we're a faith-based firm. So love that. And let's talk a little bit about like faith and stewardship and how that helped your journey and what that changed, if anything, in your mindset about money and building wealth. And let's dive a little bit into that.
Yeah, faith has always been a really big part of my life. I grew up Catholic, still a practicing Catholic, and it's something that just the virtues that Christianity teaches overall are just ones that I identify with, and I want to surround myself with people that share those same level of values. Especially when you think about the context of money and how sometimes those are at odds of one another. The root of all evil is money. You've heard that. I think that's written actually in the scriptures. But there really is a nuance to it, and what I have found is, if you think about money as a tool to be able to provide resources for your family and give back to the community, you can really start to reshape your mindset around money. Mm-hmm. And that I had that sort of a journey over the last, I'd say, few years ago or so. As I mentioned, I was starting to do really well in my day-to-day job and sort of entering into different pools of wealth, so to speak, at the point that I am in my career journey. And it was at the time where I was getting interested in real estate. And I remember I think it was maybe the first class with Greg and with you all. The conversation was really about, well, how does money play a role in your life? And when you think about all these people that are online, all these courses that are available, it's hard to trust people. Mm-hmm. But if the folks have a vested interest in faith and in Christ very specifically, you're able to trust them that much more quickly, which is why I really identify with Branch, because it's not just a nice to have marketing tool. It's truly the fabric of how this organization runs. And you feel that in the classes, and you feel that in the people you interact with here. So it's a long, convoluted answer to say that I think faith plays a big role in my life. It's impossible to think about money without thinking about faith and how I can use it as a tool to give back and to give alms and to provide for my hopefully potential future family down the line. And it's just important. Like, people can be very slimy with money and courses and that sort of a thing. Like, there are, and I won't name names, but there are these gurus on Instagram and on TikTok that will promise you wealth and quick wealth, and you're weary to trust those individuals. But when
I fight that battle all the time. I really do.
Yeah. Meaning trying to acquire people to be part of the program, yes, and they think
because everyone thinks to get rich quick. Like, that is really what sucks people in. They get And I don't know if it's the enemy who is on the other side and they're like, oh, like here, you can make all this money. You'll become a millionaire in a year.
Yeah.
And I have to be over here like, all right, we need to be more realistic.
Yes.
Like, let's do this the right way,
yes.
Conservatively. But we're here to help you build generational wealth.
Right.
We're a get rich slow,
Yeah.
not a get rich quick.
That's right.
So I love that you love that.
No question. And I say it and it seems like lip service, but it really is true. Like, it's so hard. I didn't really know who you were. I didn't really know who Greg was. I just, joined this program and said, well, I'll learn a lot. But you always have this element of skepticism. But as soon as Greg's first presentation started with faith being the focus, I said, okay, I can feel comfortable that this person is not slimy. This group and this team is not slimy. They are here to, I saw the vision really early on. It's to help young investors grow and enter into a whole new space for themselves. So I just really identified with that from the get-go, and it allowed me to really want to lean in.
I love that. Yeah. So let's talk about your experience in the program.
Yeah.
Like what were your favorite parts? What did you get out of it? What were some of the big things that you learned? So let's dive into that a little bit.
I think underwriting deals and you can understand the certain KPIs that are important, like LTV, loan to value. Like you can memorize those and understand, okay, that's an important measure when thinking about a deal, but understanding the full picture of all the things you need to be thinking about. I think Greg calls it the sniff test, right? When you think about 1% of help me with this. A while ago, I was in the program, 1% of the price of the house should reflect more than 1 month's rent from a tenant. Right? That's the sniff test. If that passes, you can do more research into the deal. And understanding that dogma of trying to shape deals up and seeing what might be worth sort of looking through and actually executing and learning more about was really helpful. So it's how do you take the amalgamation of all the different data points and things you have to think about, and how do you build that into a system to help you think through if a deal makes sense? And I felt like that was really helpful in the program. Yeah.
And then I think at that time, and I mean, we still do this, but you were having like biweekly or monthly calls with Greg and Leanne, and I think you were analyzing deal after deal after deal. So tell us about that.
And I don't want to knock the program itself. The program was phenomenal, but the value I really got out of it was those one-on-one calls. It was taking what we learned in the experience and putting it into practice, the practical application of it. So it's, okay, I see a house here. It looks like it's well within the price range. Let's talk through it very specifically. Here's what I'm doing and seeing from a numbers perspective, from a market analysis standpoint. I think I could get $1,200 to $1,300 a month for this. And so being able to walk through that with a professional that's done it a zillion times before was just really helpful. And there were plenty of deals that we were halfway through and said, this isn't a good deal for you. Had I not had that one-on-one, I may have bought that house. I
remember specifically that 1-bedroom, 1-bath that had all of like the ivy or whatever growing in the front yard.
Yes.
And I think there were several calls about that one, and you almost pulled the trigger. And I think it was like, oh, not really the best deal.
Yeah, and everything happens for a reason, because I was bummed about that one. And I was like, the math really didn't work out, but okay. And then 3 weeks later, the house that I actually I'm in right now as an investment property came up, and I said, no, it's closer to downtown. It's a little nicer area. It just felt to me like it was divine intervention, and everything happens for a reason. So, but yeah, the one-on-one calls, getting that coaching day in and day out was really, really impactful. Leanne and Greg were just really helpful in keeping me accountable, which is another thing too. Like, hey, you mentioned that you wanted to go see a few houses. Have you done that? And so the knowledge, taking all the different content that's out there and putting it into a system to think through deal and deal structure and actual accountability were the three things that I loved about that.
That's awesome. So let's talk about your first deal.
Yeah.
That was super exciting.
It was.
That was the beginning of this year. Yep. So let's talk about that.
I've been in the house now 10 months. I closed on January 22nd of 2025. It's a cute little duplex, as we saw in the video that I did with Leanne and team a while ago. It's in Concord, North Carolina. It's close to downtown. And what I love about the location is it's walking distance to the downtown area, which is growing and being invested in right now. So when I looked at the house, I said the numbers are decent. It's not a slam dunk, but it was something where I said, okay, there is upside in this deal where it might make sense to buy now, knowing that they just redid the roads in downtown Concord. There's new restaurants that are popping up. So I viewed it as a long-term sort of decision and was happy about it very specifically. There was a strong negotiation that we ended up driving.
There
if you
was.
Remember. I believe the owner was asking way above market. I did not think it was reflective of true market value. And it took some hardball. And I think it was kind of fun. And I do this in my day-to-day job, so it was kind of fun for me to have an exercise outside of it. But I came in, are we able to talk numbers? Is that fair?
We can talk numbers, but I also remember, I think we found this deal around October.
Yes.
And I don't think we went under contract. Was it New Year's Eve?
It was New Year's Eve.
It was New Year's Eve, wasn't it?
It was.
And and then closed shortly after in January. Yeah, let's talk numbers.
Yeah, so it was listed at $295, which I thought was almost ridiculous. There's no houses even touching that sort of a number. And I remember when we talked about it, and I talked about it with Greg and with Leanne, I said, doing the math here, looking at other rental rates in the area and rent rolls, $260 is what I would provide. And I think we went back with $260. That was almost laughed off. And I'm trying to remember back exactly how this went.
That may have been when the negotiation stopped, because she was like, we're too far, never mind.
Right.
And then came back.
And actually it went under contract with someone else.
It did.
And something must have happened and it came back. And I think they reached out and said, are you interested? And I said, yeah, at $260, I'm interested. And so we ended up coming down from there. I think the concession she made was, how about $285? And I said, no. And then I think she came back and said $280. And I said, that's really not a big enough concession for me. So I landed on $275.
Yep.
I felt like that was probably a little above what I wanted to spend, knowing what the rental market was looking at that point. But for everything I shared before, in terms of the upside from an equity standpoint, the town kind of really growing, and Libby just putting in a plan and knowing that the area is going to have an influx of people moving into it, I felt it was worth paying a little bit more and just getting myself actually in the real estate investing pool.
For sure. And I'm not sure if we said this, but it's a duplex.
It is.
And you're doing a thing called house hacking.
Yeah.
And you're living in one side and we have a tenant in the other.
Correct.
There was a little issue with on the tenant side, but I think you have good ones now.
They're really good. Yeah, they are. They are.
I manage it for him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They seemed pretty specific about what they wanted and needed, which was fine. And we had to have some conversations, or I had some conversations through you about that. They wanted to have a bird, I think. Is that what you said? Maybe I dreamt that.
No, I think they just wanted 10 animals in the house. And I was like, you're going to have 2?
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're going to do with the other.
That's right. It's like, I'm living it. So it's let me think.
I think they wanted a cat and you were like, absolutely no cats.
Can't do the cat.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My dog will eat it.
Yeah. Literally. My dog would eat it. But it's 1,200 square feet, 600 on both sides. It's not a lot of space for me and my dog to live and in this family. And they're great, but they wanted to have all these pets. Excuse me. So we had that conversation, or you had that conversation, which was great. But they've been nice. They're relatively quiet. They pay on time, which is key.
No issues.
They've been great. They're decorating the house, which is actually really, really,
That's
I think,
sweet.
Beautiful to me. Like they're really making it their own.
Yeah.
And that I just really love and appreciate.
They're going to be there forever.
I think so.
I don't think they're ever going to leave.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Which is great.
They're phenomenal. And it's been great. Like the tenant situation, when I first bought the house, I think we had someone in there within the first month or two. I think like February.
And he was good.
And he was really good.
That's a really sad story.
And a sad story there. And then we were kind of just looking and hoping for someone else to be able to come in. But that's the process, right? You have to recognize that you're not always going to have a renter in there. And
I think your grace is the reason why you now have such good tenants. Like he was a good tenant at first.
Yeah.
And then it was just a really sad situation with him. I feel so bad. But Nolan wasn't mad. It was just kind of like, okay, I understand. We gave him a security deposit back.
That's right.
And then we found another great set of tenants. So, and I think it's when people are like you and they're like, you know what? If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Yeah. Everything will be fine. Yeah. Everything works out.
That's right. And Christina, it goes back to just the nature and the atmosphere of faith-based organization that this is. Like I've sort of learned about real estate through this system, through this program, through meeting everyone that's here. And when a situation came up where you're really thinking about morality, right? What is the right thing to do in this specific moment? And we certainly won't go into detail, but my tenant ran into some sickness issues and had to leave the property. And the decision was what is the right thing to do, and what is something that the contract allows us to do. And I just channeled my inner Greg, my inner Christina, my inner Leanne. And the right thing to do was give them the deposit back, say, you're all set, go ahead and break the lease, and God bless, And I prayed for him. He was a great tenant, and he was just a young father that was trying to do great, and was really sad. But to your point, making the right decision led to a tenant that I think is going to be in there for the long term, which is helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what's next for you?
I'm going to house hack my way to the top.
I love it.
That's the plan.
Are you going to do a fourplex next?
We'll see if finance can get worked out. Yeah. When I bought the deal, I learned this in the program as well. The rates are important, but don't focus on them. You got to focus on the value of the house that you pay and the tenant, or what the tenant is actually paying. So I bought the property, and it was 7.25. It was a ridiculously high rate. And so I have like immediate next steps, and I have sort of goals and midterm and long-term next steps. So I definitely want to refinance so that I can get the payments down to be able to capture some more cash flow with the current property. That's step number one. And we're just kind of waiting on the process for that. But step number two is going to be move out of the unit that I'm living in, having both units be rented, and then find another property and just do it over again. So I think the rinse and repeat model, at least for where I am right now in my life, is where I want to be. It just makes too much sense to do house hacking for me. I'm a single guy. I've got a dog. I travel quite a bit. So it, to me, just makes a lot of sense. I could live in a 600 square foot little apartment and feel like I'm getting out ahead. My tenant currently is paying 60% of the outflow I would need from a mortgage perspective. So even though I'm not cash flowing right now, it's still benefiting me because I got to live somewhere and I got to pay for a place.
And it's less than what you were paying in Uptown Charlotte.
I was $2,400 Uptown Charlotte. Yeah. Now I'm paying with my renter being able to capture 60%. If I'm paying $600 to live where I'm living. So awesome. I'm just stacking cheddar is what I'm doing right now and getting ready for the next acquisition of property to start over again.
I love that. And another thing I want to say about you, you really did find the value of having a team around you. Like you always would ask, like, who should I use for this? Who should I use for inspection? Who should I use to paint or handyman or all the things? And I would give you just like 1, 2, 3 people, and you took that, ran with it, and then learned from them, used them. So
yeah, I learned that in business. I worked for a global consulting firm, and what I've learned working with clients and high value clients that are supporting large businesses, it's about the team you put around you. Delegation. One thing I've learned just from day-to-day business, I was working with a utility CEO. And he was like, Nolan, I'm the dumbest person in the room. And that's on purpose. I want to bring people around me that know the best practices of certain things and have certain capabilities. Like if I build that team around me, I'm less accountable to making those decisions because I trust people around me. So in a similar way, I took that in the same context of real estate. And I said, look, Branch has these contacts. The people that are good inspectors. The handymans that you trust and give good rates. And so I'm not going to go out to market and find it myself. I'm going to go to the people who know they can put me in touch with the right individual. So it's really an effort of convenience, but it's also an effort of you're going to know the best people to be able to work for you. So let's utilize those relationships and be able to go from there. And I'm sure it helps you all. Like the more and more you can give business to the partners that you have here at Branch, I'm sure it's combinatorial for everyone, which is
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really helps to be loyal to your people.
Yes.
We've vetted them. Like they may not be like the dirt cheapest, but they are the people who are going to show up on time. They're going to do what they say they're going to do. Their prices are fair. They're typically below market. And they're going to do what they say they're going to do. So.
And if they're getting volume through you being a referral partner, you're going to start to get some better rates probably. Yeah.
And they jump when I'm like, hey, I have this. They're like, I'll be there in an hour.
100%.
Or whatever.
Everyone that I've worked with that you've put me in touch with has been great. And what else has been helpful, you'll probably get into it, is the property management that you all do. I wouldn't even say critical. I'd say it's everything that I need. I am gone, as you know, way too much. I travel quite a bit for work. And one example, we had to get a tree removed and I was nowhere to be found. I was not in town at all.
That's right.
And, you sort of took care of it for me, which was really nice. You said, hey, I vetted the actual person that's doing it. You actually helped negotiate some rates, which is really awesome. I don't know how much of that was because we're friends or because you actually do that. Maybe we can edit that out.
A little bit of both.
I don't know if you don't want to have that included.
I do love negotiating.
Okay. But no, going through the process of vetting the right partner, the right vendor to come in to do the trees, the actual event of them coming to the location, you taking the photos to say, hey, they did a good job. They're great. Are you good to sign the check? And so having that support was, I think, I don't know where I was. I was in Chicago or something. And I was just checking my phone and said, all right, awesome, cool. It's all set up and taken care of. So the aspect of having a property management partner that is so good at what they do that you can trust them to find the right people, to make sure everything is executed correctly, to make sure the tenant is happy, is just everything. It's just everything.
And you are one of my favorite kinds of owners. I love the owners who just, because I'm going to treat your property like it's my property and those are my tenants.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do what is best for everybody. And I love when people like you are like, cool, I trust you. Do what you got to do. Just send me the bill and it'll all be taken care of.
Here.
So
and it was and
thank
it is.
you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
For sure. It's been good. And I got lawn care set up. At some point, I'd love to get a fence in the backyard, but I've got some other goals that I have in mind. So we'll see.
You got a cleaner who comes?
I do have a cleaner that comes, which is nice, and that's more for me than anything else. Maybe I might need to get a bug guy. We'll talk offline.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk offline about it. A couple cockroaches making their way through, but that's part of being a homeowner, part of being a landlord. Yeah, it is what it is.
Gosh, I know. All right, so a question that I try to ask everyone who's on the show: what book are you reading right now, or did you read, or are you about to read?
You mean besides entertainment?
Yeah, besides entertainment, because that's every night.
That's
your Bible, a little bit, 20 minutes of the Bible, 20 minutes for entertainment. What's your other 20 minutes?
Yeah, the other 20 minutes. I just finished a book called The Golden Couple, which was interesting. And I have a bit of a background in organizational psychology. This book is about a psychologist who lost her license because her practices were a little unconventional. Boundaries were getting mixed or whatever. Effectively, she now is a consultant that tries to solve the problems of the patients that she has come in, which is interesting. So this particular couple came in, they had some issues. She's more of an investigative researcher type of a situation to figure out, and it ends up that she solves a murder. So it was a cool murder mystery. It's told from two different perspectives and is written from two different perspectives, which was really interesting. So one author wrote the perspective of the psychiatrist or the psychologist, the other from the perspective of the actual main character that I won't give it away, but there is a murder. The murder takes place. The psychologist solves it, and she's the hero at the end of the day. So it was a good book.
Yeah,
it was a good page turner. The one that is on my list that I haven't purchased yet, but I've heard 3 separate people on separate occasions talking about it, is called The Will of the Many. I don't know much about it. Apparently, it's a fantasy world building sort of experience. But 3 separate people from separate circles have said you got to read it. So I think I got to read it. The Will of the Many. And I guess the new book came out called something of the Few, Will of the Many and the Desire of the Few or something like that. Apparently they're great books. I'm going to have to read them.
All right. Gotta check that out.
Next to my list.
Gotta check that out. All right. So another segment that we always do, it's called the 5-minute fast fire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my little timer here. Okay. And I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Yep. And you're going to answer those in less than 60 seconds. Okay. So they're quick. You can get into a little bit of detail, but try to keep your answers to 60 seconds or less.
Roger.
Okay. All right. So start. Try it again. There we go.
Right.
Okay. So first question. What is the best piece of advice that you learned out of the real estate investing program with Branch?
I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. The first deal makes it real.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which class it was actually in, but when Greg said that, it really hit me because it's like that was the point where you got to move from being educated on a subject to actually being an operator. And yes, it rhymed. Yes, it was pithy and it was great, but it stuck with me because it was like, I'm at a point where it's time. You get into it. The first deal makes it real. As soon as you're in it and you start the process and understand it, that's when you can actually start the scaling. So the goals that you have in mind that are for 5 and 10 and 15 years ahead, do not start unless you have that first deal. So that's the one thing. The first deal makes it real was really, really meaningful to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's like when they say it's your first million is the hardest to make. And then after that, it just comes easy.
That's right.
Yeah, I get that. What is your favorite part about real estate investing?
As I think about, Christina, my goals in my life and my career, I like I mentioned, I work for a global consulting firm that takes a lot of energy away from me. And I don't want to have to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to take on bigger risks in my career, maybe join a startup or whatever it is. And I'm using real estate as my plan to be able to move to broader risk in my day-to-day job. So I don't have a plan and a goal to have real estate be my full-time experience. If that happens, great. But my goal is really to offset so that I can take on broader risks in my day-to-day job. So maybe I don't need to work for a global consulting firm. I can start a startup and take on the risk because I have, a decent cash flow in terms of real estate investing. So I actually forgot what the question was, but hopefully that was
a great answer.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. All right. So what's one habit that you learned that took you from student to real estate investor?
One habit.
Or one thing that you do that you're like, if I didn't do this, I don't think that I would be where I am right now.
I'm not just saying this, Christina. This is really true. I think if I had not met you and had not met the Branch family, I don't think I would have a real estate property right now. And I really mean that. I think the accountability of, yes, I'm paying money to get taught how to do this was just it was a formality. It was like, I'm not articulating this well, but just the aspect of I'm investing in myself to invest in a real estate journey to get me to the goals I have in life does not start without accountability from Branch. So I don't know if that's a good enough answer, but that's my fast answer.
I love
in
that.
60 seconds.
That was a great answer. So if you were to go back in time and talk to your past self, and maybe you were on the fence about investing in yourself and in the education, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, buy in 2020. That's what I would tell myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had some friends that got into real estate right at that time. They've got 2% interest rates. Like the deals were just so easy for them to make sense of because rates were so low. So if I had met you in 2019, I think I'd probably be my third or fourth property by now. So I would tell myself, Nolan, pull the trigger, buy a house, figure it out later is what I would say.
Just do it.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. What does success mean to you now?
Success. Success is relative. It's relative for everyone. When I think about success, my mind goes to my day job. It takes up all of my life. But I told this to my boss and I told this to other leaders in my business. I said, I just want to be good at this job. I want to be good at it. Help me understand the behaviors I need to possess to be good at this. And so I had leaders tell me, here are the 3 to 5 behaviors you need to do to be good at this role. And I just focus on those behaviors. And as I take that and translate it to real estate investing, the behaviors in that context, accountability and execution are the 2 that I'd say, just do it. Mm-hmm. You're going to read a zillion things, but until you get the sleeves rolled up and actually do the work, I've said it 7 times on this podcast already. It is just the truth. Just do it. Figure it out. The process is not easy until you get it under your belt and actually do it, right? It can seem daunting. There's so many steps and you got to get the appraisal and you got to get this and they, I forget what are the pink ribbons they put around to showcase how the property actually sits. The survey, like it's arduous. You do it in a stepwise manner and you realize, oh, okay, I can do this again. So the next time that I go and do it, we're going to go ahead. I don't care if the music is playing. You're wrapping up. Yeah, I don't care if the music is playing. I'm going to finish the speech at the Emmys. It seems daunting at first, but the more you actually go through the process, you just feel like, oh, I can handle this again and again and again.
For sure. I love that.
All right.
Awesome.
How'd
Nolan.
I do?
You did great.
Okay.
This is awesome. Is there anything else you want to say to our listeners before we kind of wrap up?
Folks, if you're listening and watching, I've established a great relationship with folks here at Branch. And so take this with a grain of salt, if you will, but the one thing keeping me from actually doing a deal was having a network that exists here. The learnings that I've gotten from Greg and team in the program, the relationship that I've built with Christina have been really helpful. But the network that you gain being a part of this experience has also been incredibly helpful. So even if you think you know everything you know, even if you think you've read everything you've read, come join this program, be a part of this experience. learn from other people. It will provide value to you for years to come. So that's my PSA to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, do the program because Greg and team are the best. Yes, do the one-on-one calls. Yes, engage with Christina and the rest of the team. But the network you're going to gain and being a part of these cohorts is going to provide you value years to come. So that's my parting wisdom for the folks.
Oh, gosh, I love that. So we need to hire him. I have just realized. He said everything that I was about to also close with. So
I don't know if you can afford me. I don't know if you could. No, I'm just kidding.
I know, you're probably right. Well, thank you all for listening. Like Nolan said, if you want to learn more about real estate investing, if you're in that analysis paralysis and you've just been educating yourself and you're like, I need an actual person to talk to, give me a call. Go on our website, branchwealthpartners.com. You can shoot me an email, Christina@branchwealthpartners.com, and I'm here to help you. I promise I will answer your email. So thank you guys for stopping by. We'll see you next time.